to this week's IG Live. Today I'm going to be talking to a pair of authors, and they're unusual because it's a father-daughter team, but it's really led by the inspiration of the teenager, and she's going to be talking to us about what was so inspiring to her. Hello. And why this book is something so special and so close to her heart. So let me get them on. Margis-Noguera. They're going to get on here in just a minute, and we're going to be talking about, it's a picture book. It's available in English and Spanish. Find Your Forest or Encuentra tu Bosque. Hello.
Hi.
So good to see you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
good to be here.
Let's see. Taylor, I can't quite see you in the picture. If you could, there you are. All right. I know it's a little strange to do it this way, but why don't we go ahead and jump in? So we have Audrey and Taylor, and I know you guys worked together on this, although my understanding is it was mostly kind of your inspiration. So maybe I'll start with you, Audrey. If you want to tell us what was the inspiration. Well, first tell us about the book and what inspired it.
Sure. So the book is called Tiny Travelers Find Your Forest. We have a couple of copies here. We have it in English and in Spanish. And really, it's all about getting families of all backgrounds out into the forests. And so we have spreads on different types of plants and animals and insects and types of forests. And I was really inspired to do it because I grew up in Brooklyn, and it really felt like forests were some magical place far away that you couldn't visit, right? And in New Jersey, and I was very lucky to have a forest right near our house. So I spent a lot of time there, and I just really discovered how wonderful it is to spend time outside and how magical and relieving it feels. And I was really able to clear my head and let go of the day, and I just thought that everyone should be able to experience it. So that was a lot of the inspiration behind the book.
I love it, and I love that you are, like you said, I mean, that you had this experience and you decided, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to turn it into a book. So what made you think, when you wanted to kind of share this with other people, what made you think, okay, I should do a picture book about it?
I think it's really important in a day and age that lots of kids and teens are on screens and on social media, that I was really targeting kids my age and kids younger than me, because again, for me personally, it was really wonderful to be able to go outside and de-stress and not have to be on my phone and have all the stressors of high school and being a kid. And so I think it was really important that we start out with this age group and make sure that kids all around the country, really are able to take advantage of the magic that the forests have to offer.
That is so beautiful. And of course, as a parent, I love that, the idea of getting kids off screens, because I think it, like you say, it can just, there's so many beautiful things about the internet and being so connected, but at the same time, there is so much stress that goes along with it and can bring some anxiety into the idea of just unplugging and going out in nature. So why is this something that you're so passionate about? I mean, you've already touched on it some, but is this something that you grew up and you just went and one day and had this experience, or what made you decide that you wanted to go out into the forest in the first place and kind of have this nature experience?
Yes. So my dad actually was the one that kind of realized that we had this forest close to us. And I was like, we can visit a forest? There's a forest near us? I was like, let's try it. And I was a little bit skeptical at first. I wasn't sure that, the forest would be all that it has, come to mean to me now. And we went out, and I just fell in love with it, because really, one of the main things that I wanted to emphasize with this book is that there are forests all around you, and that you don't necessarily have to have an experience like I did, where you go out into what people would normally consider a forest, but also there's urban forests, and you can really be taking in nature wherever you are and wherever you come from. And one of the main things that I learned when I was doing some research in preparation for writing this book was something called the nature gap. And essentially what that is that only about 10% of national park visitors are people of color. And as a Latina myself, this was something that was really shocking to me. And I just really wanted to make sure that, you know, we were tackling this nature gap and being sure that everyone felt that they could go out into the forest and knew that they had access to it and were inspired to really enjoy it.
And back in Brooklyn, we really did spend a lot of time in the parks.
Mm-hmm.
We just never realized that we were in an urban forest.
Yeah.
And
Right.
this was, we wrote this in partnership with the folks at the Ad Council, who brought us Smokey the Bear, who turns 80 years old this year, and he looks good.
Yes.
And the U.S. Forest Service. And we spent a lot of time with them because it was important that the book be correct,
Yeah.
right? Inspiring and incorrect wasn't going to work. And so we spent a lot of time with them into the minute detail of what the trees look like and where the spot on the salamander actually is. And the fact that not all redwood forests are old, only some of them are old,
Yeah.
which really make it hard to do rhyming with that level of specificity. But learning about the urban forests in particular and the importance they play, you know, in the ecosystem, but also just even if you're, you know, in a small apartment in Brooklyn, as we were for many, many years, we always loved getting outside. We realized it was because we were actually engaging with a forest, with an urban forest, and even a small stand of trees is its own ecosystem. And we discovered that when we came out here and started spending time in what we perceived as a proper forest. Right. But we always had the feeling of relaxation and wonder, even little stand of trees. And we have a few spreads on that. The whole premise of Find Your Forest is we open with a bunch of kids who are in an apartment, ready and excited to go out to the forest, and then they realize but they don't know where to find one, and they're actually not even sure what it means, what going to a forest means. And the book progresses them, you know, out their front door and into an urban forest, and then into a park, and then into you know, a larger forest with introductions to lots of plants and animals that you would see as often, you know, on the corner or in a little park in Brooklyn as you would out in Jersey, as you would in across the nation and in the world, and trying to get them introduced to the names of some birds and the names of some plants and, you know, ecosystems. We don't go too deep into the science, but hopefully enough to get kids excited.
Right, enough to get that curiosity going. And I love how it reflects your own journey of starting with something urban and then maybe going into something a little less familiar to and I'm curious, so what was the collaboration like between you two? Because I know, Audrey, you had this idea, that kind of spark. So how did the actual writing process work?
Yeah, so a lot of the book was actually written in my grandmother's backyard. Lives in California. And the idea kind of had been sparked for a long time, and I had been thinking about it, and then we got there, and it just felt so special to be able to write the book outdoors and be experiencing, you know, the wonders of nature while writing the book. And it was also super helpful because my mother herself is a writer, and like my dad was saying, we had to tackle some difficult rhymes.
I just had video of the three of us back there yelling, "What rhymes with orange?" Salamander. No, nothing. We can't say sal. For hours and hours and hours, trying to figure out how to, because it was important to us that it had some poetry to it, and you know, was of the kind of rhythm that that kids and families enjoy and would expect. Man, it was much more difficult, and to do it in rhyme, but also to do it using fewer words versus less words, right? And explain how you know, how the ecosystem works in just a couple of words, or how to explain migratory patterns of birds in just a couple of words. And I feel like we we got to a pretty good place with it. We're very happy with it, although we still see, we'll open it and read and say, oh, should have just tweaked that one a little bit more, or we'll remember a version. This is many drafts. We'll remember a version from 4 drafts ago. Like, I don't know, maybe we should have kept, that phrase in there, or not changed that, that word. But it was a super fun experience. Yeah, I'm quite sure we looked like crazy people in grandma's backyard yelling words at each other and trying to find rhymes.
Yeah.
So you guys, you were collaborating on it from the very beginning. It wasn't like one did a draft and the other look it over. You were there, figuring out the rhymes together. I love that image of you guys in your grandmother's backyard.
It was pretty wonderful. And that was after a bunch of work, as I said, with folks who were actual forest experts whose role is forest. They're actually called forest educators at the U.S. Forest Service. Some incredible educators that we spent a lot of time with, talking through all the work that they've already done, in addition to what the Ad Council has done, the thinking and efforts around forest education, around encouraging families to get out and use our forests and be in nature, and taking, as I said, what were some fairly complex concepts, generally written for maybe an older age than what we wrote for, and trying to turn that into a very condensed, simpler, more digestible, but staying true to to the science, to the to the how things look and how they act. And we had quite a few mentioned already. We wrote all redwood forests are old because it was a nice rhyme at the end. They let us know, well, in fact, not all redwood forests are old, so you got to put some in there. And there was a lot of that, but we're really proud of the scientific accuracy of the book, and hopefully it's fun to read and engage with, and even if you don't know that you're learning, you're learning a bunch. And we worked with an incredible illustrator, Abby Gross, who was able to bring, it's quite a unique experience to do all that work and have the vision in your head of how the words might be represented, and then have an incredible artist come in and say, and here it is.
Yeah.
And for her to really have a huge, as much, not more important, role of bringing it to life. When you're drawing from our inspiration, talking about insects, and then she brings us to this, where you're coming at it from the child's point of view, right? It's just incredible. And Abby had a fair share of time with the Forest Service too, and they said, I'm sorry, that beetle needs to be slightly tweaked, because that is not exactly how or here, looking down from the point of view of the bird. Just a wonderful experience. But it was a lot bigger of an undertaking than I think we had. She wrote a book in 2nd grade. You write down some words, you draw some pictures, it's a book. It was it was months and months and months in the making, and the process of getting it printed, and it was almost a year from when we started iterating on it to when it actually came out. And we were lucky enough, through a wonderful partnership with Target. Target actually gave away thousands of copies over the summer to visitors, part of a campaign, again, to get more people out into the forests. And the form factor of the book, it's not a soft book, it's flexible, and we did that on purpose so you can jam it into a bag.
Right.
It really is meant to be brought with you out into the forest. And we've got activities in the back
Yeah.
of different you can do while you're out there.
Audrey, what was that like for you? What was surprising to you about the whole process? Like your dad said, this is a lot more work, a lot longer than you expected. What was the most surprising thing, and what was it like to get that book? And when you saw all the illustrations and saw it all come together, what did that feel like to get that copy?
I mean, it was so wonderful. It was so rewarding. When we originally got the PDF, I was sitting in English class at school, and I got the email like it's in. I was like, oh my. And I'm sitting there and I open it and we're like, ooh, and my English teacher was looking at it and we were all just so excited. And I got a little emotional because, we had put so much time into this and we really didn't even anticipate how much of an effect it would have on people. As my dad was saying, the Target gave out, I believe, many copies across the country, and I was able to go to one of the Target stores and give out a few copies to kids and sign a few copies, and it was so rewarding and wonderful because we were able to see kids. It was like
she was there.
Yes, the kids
in that hat with the boots that you can't see in this picture. It was
amazing.
It was incredible.
You could just see the kids light up when they saw themselves in it. It was as if we had, modeled the characters after the kids that we were seeing. And so I think, the most surprising thing was just really the impact that it would have on all kids that we've talked to.
And we did a wonderful reading for the launch of the Spanish edition, which just came out weeks ago. Well, we did an event with some bilingual learners here in our school district, and it was just wonderful. I mean, they're Spanish dominant, some English, and it was a mix. And just to get to read to them in English and in Spanish, and opportunity for them to both see some characters that look like them, but also to get to interact in Spanish, hear about the wonders of the forest in Spanish, and to get to ask questions and engage and participate in Spanish and or in English, whatever they were comfortable with, was just really, really, really wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of response have you gotten, especially Audrey? I imagine when kids see you and they're like, "Wait, you wrote a book? I mean, but you're not much older than us." What kind of reaction do you get?
Yeah. So I did a reading at one of our local elementary schools a few weeks ago, and it was so wonderful because I had done my presentation and my reading, and I'm sitting there and everybody's clapping, and this little girl goes, "I want to be an author just like you when I grow up," and she was just talking to me about how wonderful it was to be able to see someone almost their age who had also published a book and who had realized their dreams and aspirations of putting something like this out. And it was so wonderful to be able to hear that, being a young author, that I'm inspiring young writers to do the same and to follow in my footsteps. It's been really wonderful.
And the teachers are always very excited to hear when we talk about, man, and you had to do another draft and do another draft, and the first one you make isn't going to be perfect, because that's what they've been telling their students.
Yep.
They, when we said it unprompted, or Audrey said it unprompted, like, yes, see, you have to rewrite and rewrite and rewrite and draft. But it was really, really fun to get to do these talks. And Audrey's talking at for Arbor Day coming up, and just any chance to get out and talk to anyone in the community, and just remind folks that these, whether it's an urban forest or your local park or a state park or federal lands, like, they belong to us, right? They are free, right? Generally, they're there for you to go take advantage of. And it's not just how we feel when we walk there. Science shows that spending time in nature is just good for you. This is a mental health issue, right? We've got a lot of issues right now around teen mental health and stress, and with so much going on in the world, a 15-minute walk, even just in a little bit of woods or urban forest, really does, the studies show, have an impact. And it really calms you down and helps you with some perspective and reset. And I think if we can get more folks to spend just a little bit more time, kids especially, and they can have a bunch of positive impacts across across their days and their lives. And maybe along the way, we get a few of them excited about nature and all the different ways, you can, have a life or a career a little bit farther ahead than the kids for this book. But, we talk about an arborist and what that means. And we talk about rangers and park rangers and the Forest Service and, how you can make spending time in nature and or spending time working with animals, how you spend your life.
And what I think is so exciting is whether you're talking about as a career or just as someplace to relax and de-stress, going back to what you were also saying at the very beginning, Audrey, is that kids can see themselves in this book. They see themselves in the forest. They can see other people like them, and you writing this book, someone that's like them, and they can see themselves spending time, that these spaces belong to them too. Well, so now that you've had this experience, do you think are you working on another book? Do you have another plan in the works for that? Or
So, of course, I'm still a junior in high school, so
we have to remind ourselves of that you're still in high school. Yeah.
Most of my time and energy is being spent on getting through my AP exams right now, and also, making sure that we are getting the word out about the work that we've already done, and the Spanish version in particular, we're super duper excited that it's come out. So, we'll see.
We'll see. We have our publisher, Encantos, is an incredible publisher whose mission is to, do a lot of what we've done with Tiny Travelers Find Your Forest. And Tiny Travelers is actually a broader brand with a bunch of different books, primarily focused on, get introduced to Haiti, introduced to France, introduced to Lebanon. So, and then they have an entire series called Canticos. So always happy to support whatever they're doing. Had some conversations, but right now we're just excited to be reading this to any groups that we can, and doing some events out actually in the forest with some of the activities like sound mapping and leaf rubbing. Just focused on that and making sure that she can get through the rest of junior year.
Well, that's important. Priorities, yeah. Well, best of luck on your AP exams. That's a lot of work, and amazing that you have done this beautiful book. I love that it's also available in Spanish, and that you've had so much support from it. So thank you guys for taking the time to talk with us. For those that don't know, we actually had to do a little maneuvering on our time because, she's in high school. So we have to do it after her school day. So you're doing this after a long day of school. So I do appreciate that. We are mindful of that. So thanks to everybody who's joined us. If you just came on late, don't worry. The whole interview will be up on Instagram in a few minutes, and then later we'll have it on our YouTube channel. So thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And for anybody, if you missed it, that the book is Find Your Forest, or in Spanish, Encuentra tu Bosque. Bye, everybody.